Today's lesson is going to be on long division with remainders. We're also going to touch on dividing with some bigger divisors as numbers. All students should be pretty comfortable with long division at this point. If you need a review on long division, I have another video on that. This one's going to get straight to the point, so you should already know how to do your long division to be successful with this lesson. So our first problem is 557 divided by 15. We talked about vocab in our previous video, and that 515 being our first number is going to get inside of the house, and that is our dividend. And then 15 is going to be outside of the house, so that will be our divisor. And then we are trying to solve and find the quotient. So we're going to start just as we kind of typically would, and I'm going to use, I have my little hamburger, I use my Mnemonic does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers raw, and then I kind of use this as my visual. Okay, I like to cover those up. So how many times does 15 go into 5? Well, 5 is smaller, so that would be 0 times. I'm going to place that 0 or an X if you would like to as that placeholder. And then I'm just going to kind of slide over and look at the next number. How many times does 15 go into 55? You might have to come over here and do some multiplication to kind of work that out if you don't have your multiplication facts. But I would find that 3 15s can go into 55. So I'm going to put my 3 up top. That's my division. 3 times 15 is 45, so I'm going to subtract 45. That would be 10. I'm going to check, is my difference less than my divisor? It is, so I'm good to go. That means I need to bring down my next number. I'm going to bring down this 7, so this becomes 107. And then how many times does 15 go into 107? I know that 5 15s is 75, and I could fit another 30 there. So I'm going to try 15 times, oops, wrote the wrong number there, 15 times 7. Times 7 equals 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10. Okay, yep, that's as close as I'm going to get. So the 7 goes up top, that's my division. I'm going to subtract 105, and that would be 2. Now, I'm all out of numbers, okay? So I've used all the numbers from my dividend, but I still have a remainder, okay? Typically, when we're dividing, we really want to get to a remainder of 0. In this case, that's not going to happen. So I have 2 options for how I want to write my answer. Now, technically, there's 3, but we're only going to talk about 2 of them in this video. So the first way I could write my answer is I could just write it as 37. That was not a very neatly written 3. 37 remainder with a capital R 2. That would be an appropriate way to write my answer. If you are just doing long division, that answer makes sense. And what that means is 15 goes into 557 37 whole times, but there's 2 left over. The second way I can write this answer is I'm going to write it as 37, and then we have to remember, since this is a division problem, we are technically still dividing this 2, it's just that we can't right now. So I'm going to show that remaining division as a fraction. Okay, so to explain that, your remainder is always going to go and be the numerator in your fraction. Your divisor is always going to be the denominator in your fraction, your whole number. Okay, and that's obviously your whole number. Okay, so you have 2 options when writing answers to division problems that result in a remainder. You can write it remainder 2, or you can write it in fraction form as 37 and 2/15. Your remainder is the numerator, your divisor is your denominator. Let's try it on another problem. Our next problem is 7,365 divided by 34. So this time we have a little bit bigger of a divisor, and that might be a little trickier for some of us as we don't really have our multiples of 34 memorized. But I'm going to kind of teach you a trick to hopefully make that not as hard of a process. So I'm first just going to kind of set up my problem, 7,365 inside the house, 34 outside the house. I'm just going to kind of start and really make sure I have all my information and that I have it the way that I want it. So let's take a look. Let's move our hamburger up here and kind of cover up some of our numbers. Can 34 go into 7? No. So I'm going to put my 0 up there. It goes in 0 times. And then I'm going to slide this over. Can 34 go into 73? I know it can definitely go in at once. Can it go in 2 times? Well, let's give it a try. If I work it out to the side, 34 times 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, yep, it can go in and it can't go in anymore. So I'm going to put my 2 up top. I'm going to subtract my 68. All right, I might have to do some borrowing here, in which case that's all right. I'm going to borrow from my 7 to become 6. My 3 is going to become 13. 13 minus 8 is 5. 6 minus 6 is 0. Okay, so I'm checking. My difference is definitely smaller than my divisor, so I can continue on. So I'm going to slide this over, and then we can start by bringing down our next number. So I'm going to bring down the 6, so this becomes 56. Now, I know 34 can go into 56 one time, and then I already did this math over here for 2 times, which that's too much. So I know it's going to go 1 time. So right above the 6, I'm going to put that 1. I'm going to subtract 34. 6 minus 4 is 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay. And then I'm going to slide this over again. And so that's the end of it. And bring down my next number. So I'm going to bring down that 5. All right, so this is a pretty big one. So this is where my trick is going to help you out, okay? We need to figure out how many times is 34 going to 225. Now, I know I can use my benchmark of times 10. 34 times 10 would be 340, but that's definitely too much. And kind of counting your way backwards might be a little bit of a struggle. So here is my trick. I'm going to use my hamburger for this actually, and I'm going to cover up my ones place in the 34. So instead of thinking this is 34, I'm going to think of it like 3 for a second, but I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do the same down here. I'm going to cover up my ones place so that I'm just looking at the other place values, okay? So what this is then going to look like is, instead of 225, I'm thinking of it like 22, okay? So I'm thinking of it as 3, and I'm thinking of it like 22. Okay, how many times does 3 go into 22? Okay, well, that would be 7 times. So I can try 7 right away, or maybe I could try 6 or 8, but that's going to get me in the ballpark. So this is what there's. It's just giving me kind of a smart guess for this first one. But also what you could do is you really could use some rounding. So we could think of 34 as 30. We could think of 225 as 220 or 200. But going back to my point, I'm going to give 34 times 7 a try. Using that trick, thinking of it like 3 and 22. So 7 times 4 is 28. Carry my 2. 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 2 is 23. So as we can see, we have too much here. All right, so 7 is not going to be our answer because I multiplied it too much. But now I'm in the right area. I know that I can go and do 34 times 6, and this will be the correct answer. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 3 is 28. Plus 2 is 20. So if this can go in 6 times, I'm going to subtract 204. This would be 21. Okay, and I have no more numbers. I'm all out up here in my dividend. So that means I'm going to have a remainder. So to properly write my final answer, I can write it as a remainder, in which case it would be 216 remainder 21, or I can write this in that fraction form as 216 and 21 34ths, remainder going in the numerator, divisor going in the denominator. Okay, so either of those answers would be appropriate for this problem. Okay, I'd like you guys to pause this video and give these problems a try. You are going to get remainders, and I purposely gave you a little bit bigger of divisors, so you can use that trick, that covering up the ones place, and just kind of seeing how that other number goes in to help you estimate how many times. But definitely stop this video now. When the video restarts, I will have the answers up, and you can kind of look through my work and see if yours matches. All right, great job, guys. Let's see how you did. For this first problem, I got an answer of 105 remainder 4, or 105 and 4/61. And for the second problem, I got an answer of 209 remainder 65, or 209 and 65 160ths. We definitely could simplify that fraction, but that is not our main concern right now, so I thought I would let it go. One thing I do want to point out is actually in both of these problems, you can see in the red ink that when I brought down a number, so over here in the first problem, I brought down the 0 and I had 30, and 61 can't go into 30, so I had to make sure I put that 0 up top. That's an easy one to forget. And then it actually happened again over here on this other side. I brought down the 0, and it's hard to see, but I had 150, and 160 can't go into 150. So I had to put that 0 up top and bring down another number right away. So that's why you see two arrows just right next to each other, kind of pointing to the same area. So I just wanted to point that out. It doesn't happen in every problem, but when it does happen, when you bring a number down and you can't take away your divisor from it, you have to make sure you include that. Well, it goes in 0 times, and that ends up top. So I hope this helped. I hope it made sense. Please let me know if you have questions. Have a great day.